Hello and welcome back. We are back to streaming the creation process of making this AR filter. This is going to be making an asset ready for augmented reality across different platforms. Whether you want to take this into, different companies have different AR products out now, and this process that I'm showing you today works for all of them. In part one, we focused on making this geometry. We sculpted all of this geometry in a program called Cinema 4D. And now what we're going to be doing is taking some of this geometry into another program called Zbrush, where we are going to sculpt a lot more details into this model and make like a higher resolution version of the same asset so that we can sculpt all sorts of cool nuances into the materials. So thanks for joining, and let's get right to it. So I'm going to start off and just save my work, and I just want to point out that we've completed our UV maps. So every part of the model has a UV coordinate that corresponds to where we will be able to paint the model, which is a really essential step for making AR filters that look really good. This little square that you see right here, this big polygon, this is where a spider web is going to go. That's what that one represents. These ones here are going to make leaves of little plants and things, and then the brown stuff is going to make the cornucopia looking thing, like some wood materials. So we are streaming live to YouTube as we speak. This is what I'm looking like on YouTube. Take a look. I'm literally wearing an AR filter that we made in a previous stream. I'm wearing it while we're in YouTube. So this is what people on YouTube should be able to see right now. I'm wearing this AR filter. It's a full body one, full body tracking and whatnot. But that is what we are wearing while we're designing this new AR filter that's going to be a hat, a witch hat that people will be able to wear with their smartphones. So let's get right to it. First thing I'm going to do is export this geometry out of here as an OBJ file. One thing to keep in mind is you want to maybe apply a blanket material to all the stuff that you want to paint together on one layer. So I'm going to call this one hat, and I'm going to fill that up. Oh, it looks like it's painting the face, so I'm going to rename that face. And then with the other asset, we're going to call this one hat. And the colors here don't matter. The key that matters here is just having a separate material ID before you export it out. Because in Substance Painter, we have to paint on a single material ID at a time. So I want to be able to paint all of the stuff that's in that magenta color all at once when we're in that program. So just by grouping it this way, it's just going to save us some effort in the future. All right, so I'm going to save the project. Next, we're going to export this out. So I'm going to go to File. Oops, let me get rid of this null object. We don't need that. We're going to go to File and Export. And I'm going to export this wavefront OBJ file. And I'm going to save it into here. I'm going to call this low res version and save that object. Cool. So now that we have our low res, oh, April, oh my goodness, good to hear from you. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. April and I went way back into high school. I would say April knows me well, a lot better than most people, just because, we went to high school together, we were buddies, and we used to pull pranks on each other all the time. So it's always good to hear from you, April. Hope you're doing well. All right, so what we're going to do is take this asset out of here, and we're going to open it up into Zbrush. So Zbrush is a fantastically powerful tool for sculpting 3D models, and it's one of the best ones out there, if not the best. Best in terms of quality that it can deliver. If you've seen any fancy movies with any CG characters whatsoever, there's a 99% chance that they were using Zbrush for the character creations. And I have my reference footage here. This one is like a felt witch hat that I thought was kind of cool for reference. I also have these other witch hats that I was inspired by and kind of brought them together. Here's our thumbnail. This is a Halloween hat AR filter tutorial. So let's go ahead and import our model. I'm going to go to the tools and click on import. Import again. And we're going to navigate to that file that we just saved. Weird, I don't see it in the main folder. Oh, there it is. Low res version. Let me open that. Great. So now we have our hat available here. to be painted. How neat is that? I'm just trying to familiarize myself with hotkeys, so that's how I zoom in. So what we're going to be working on is adding a whole bunch of details to just parts of this hat. Actually, should we get rid of the face? Are these separate objects? Let me double check. It might be worthwhile getting rid of the face so that we're not accidentally... Oh, I guess we're just projecting... I'm debating whether to get rid of the face. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of the face and then bring it back into here. Why I'm debating this is once we bring this into a program called Substance Painter, we're going to need to bake models, and it might be easier for me to bake it without the face. So I'm going to delete the face geometry, and then we're just going to export just the hat. So we'll go to File, Export, Object, and I'm going to choose just the hat, and I'm just going to call this just underscore hat underscore low, because it's the low res version of the hat. Okay, okay. Oh, you're loving the wings. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. So that hat is exported out. Let's go back into Zbrush, and we're going to delete this one, or just replace it. That means I'm going to go to Transform, Tools, Import, and we're going to import just the hat, low resolution. There we go. Cool. So what we're going to do is, first off, take a look at the polygons. You can see the polygons here in black, so very few. And what I want to do is create the high resolution version of the same asset. First off, we're going to go to our Z plugin and turn off our symmetry, because this is not a symmetrical object. Then I'm going to turn on this asset called Sculptress Pro, which essentially adds resolution. So you see, as I start to go over the surface, it starts to add resolution. It adds a lot more polygons into that region. And for the time being, we're going to switch it to a matte cap red. I like to use these matte cap materials when I'm painting, when I'm sculpting in ZBrush, because they just remind me of clay, and then it's kind of fun to sculpt with clay. And I also have this little Wacom tablet down here where we can draw on this little sensor. I'm just trying to familiarize myself with the hotkeys. That's how I zoom. How do I pan? Okay, so Alt and left mouse button, and then Shift. Okay, cool. So this is looking familiar. So what I'm doing right now is I'm adding resolution to certain parts of the model. Why I'm doing this is I would like to add some folds and creases into the model, and that's only going to be really feasible if we have more resolution there. Next, I'm going to reduce the size of my brush and come in here with one of my favorite brushes here. This is called the, I'm going to turn off polygon count. This brush that I'm using right now is called the clay buildup brush. It's very awesome at creating like a lot of detail very cheaply. You can just kind of draw in certain areas and it's really just like stacking on clay onto your model. And so what I'm trying to do is place these clay buildups right in the creases of the witch hat so that it feels a lot more real. Because when I looked at this reference of this hat, I was noticing that you have a lot of really nice folds in there. And so I want to emulate those folds in my own hat model. So going in there with the brush like this, it's a good way to do that. And then I'm holding Shift to smooth it out. So we add a little bit of resolution and then we smooth it out. We add some resolution and then smooth it out. And essentially repeat that process many, many times, and you will get something that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to smooth out that a little bit, smooth out those bumps. Great. Let's create some more folding, tapering. Just adding some more folds. All right. Cool. Next, we're going to go to the other sides of the hat. I'm going to look at my reference here. And just add some more creases and stuff just to add more life into it. In particular, we'll go around maybe this side over here. Add some cool little creases to the edges and stuff. Just sculpting away some details in the hat corners here. Okay, so that just adds a lot more detail. Getting a lot of reflection coming from behind me, so I'm going to try to block the sun. Like a vampire. That might reduce the reflections back there a bit. Okay, so we just added those folds in there, kind of like how fabric folds. Now I'm going to grab my favorite brush, the Dam Standard brush, which is great for creating harsh creases into geometry. So I can go in here and just draw in some soft creases into that part of the hat, and it'll create a nice little folding effect. So I'm just dragging that crease brush in there to create those little crevices. I'm trying to imagine how fabric would fold over itself a little bit over time, especially like an old witch hat. So I'm just creating little creases there just to add more resolution to it. Next we're going to increase that brush size and smooth out some more parts. Try to avoid certain areas to reduce complexity. Again, ignore that big rectangle in here. This is going to be for spider webs later on. Alright, let's get the brush in really small here. And I'm just going to start adding some smoothing to these little guys in the front here. And just by smoothing these out, we're going to get this nice, like, kind of wood-like quality coming out of them. And I want that wood-like quality since we're going to be carving into this some like wood chips and twigs. So I'm just smoothing out just the ones that are facing us. I'm not planning to add this level of detail to the parts of the hat that we're not seeing. But since this is the front of the hat, and when people wear this in AR, I want that part of the hat to have those extra details. We're going that extra mile because this part will be facing forward. Alright, let's go around this plane over here and wrap around this side. Just smoothing out bit by bit here. Okay, so I think those ones are going to be mostly covered with plants. So for this area, what we're going to do to create those wood chippings is I'm going to add my H polish brush and just start polishing off random sides to create these random flat areas in the model. This is going to help us create this feeling of like twig and like hand carved wood. Just adding some little bumpy surfaces. Kind of flattening some areas out a little bit, adding some texture. Next we're going to go in with the Dam brush, the Dam brush here, the Dam Standard, and we can just carve little bumps and grooves into the, I'm going to make the brush size a little bit smaller there. We can use this to kind of create little wedges and cuts into the model. So again, these are like twigs that are wrapped around the hat, wrapped around the witch's hat. And so I'm just creating these little bumps so that we'll have some cool textures to sculpt on and paint. We'll be putting lots of cool wood textures on here. But I think just by breaking up the model, creating some little wood chipping areas, it's going to help breathe a lot of cool life into this. Doing little dents here and there, little chippings. We'll be sharpening up these chip marks in a second. But for now, I'm just creating those chip marks. Little holes, little gaps. it just breaks up some of the monotony. Oops. And again, I'm not going to be doing this level of detail to all of the hat. I'm only doing it to the sides that are facing the camera, since that's how it will be seen. Next, we're going to go in with the H polish brush and just try to flatten out some of these little areas within here. And this really sharpens the cuts that are being placed in there to kind of add some flatness to those little openings. So just by going in here and flattening out some little grooves, creating some nice little deformations in the wood chips. Alright, getting a notification on Twitter. Let me just take a look. Make sure it's not an emergency. I can't tell if it's an emergency yet. Nope, not yet. Alright, so I'm just kind of flattening out some of the areas of the wooden twigs that go around the hat. These are one of those things where like the details aren't going to be noticed by everybody, but it's going to raise the quality of this asset when it doesn't look like it was just copied and pasted. Because it's not. You know, we're making this hat from scratch, we're making every little part of it, painting every part of it, and we'll also be animating this hat a little bit later. So I just feel like it's kind of fun sometimes to go the extra mile on your AR assets and experiences, because it's like subconsciously noticed, the extra work that's put in. What we're making is the high resolution version of this asset so that we can, this is the high res version, so that means we'll be able to project this onto our low resolution version to get some very high quality details onto our hat. Okay. Alright, so let's start smoothing out parts of the brim. So I'm going to switch up the view here and grab my smoother tool and just try to start smoothing some of the brim of the hat in the front here. Again, the same principle in mind that I'm keeping is that I'm only adding extra resolution to the areas that are facing the viewer, or in our case, the wearer. Whoever's wearing this AR filter, I want them to have all the cool details up in the front. So I'm going in here with the smooth brush to add more polygons to those areas so that we have more resolution to sculpt on and to go that extra mile with details. So I'm just sculpting away, adding more polygons underneath the brim of the hat. For those of you just joining around here on Instagram, we are live streaming to YouTube right now. I am trying to do a little bit of a push towards YouTube just because the longer form content I think does better there. Because it's kind of like people go to YouTube to experience longer form content. So it makes sense to kind of put the longer form stuff there. But right now we are wearing an AR filter while we are streaming this, which is fun. It's like meta. Okay, so what we just did is we added a bunch of polygons to the front of the hat. I'm going to add a little bit more over here. Holding shift to add polygons is very useful inside of this program. There we go, so just added all that little extra detail. And now with all those details added, we can go back into it with a brush like the damn standard brush, and I can carve into the hat and make little cuts in the hat, for instance. So I'm just going to carve into the hat here, make a couple little dents. This is the front of the hat, so I'm just going to carve in, creating some little divots and scrapes and scratches. And wrinkles. So I'm just using the damn standard brush to chop into the geometry, and then I'm smoothing it out. And that creates these little openings in the hat, which I think look kind of cool. We could even, just keep adding little details like this. So that's the front of the hat now. Let's turn off our polygons So you can start to see what the geometry is going to look like. I might smooth out some of these bumps a little bit. They're a little too extreme. Okay. Cool. So we just added some extra details to the front of the hat. That's all I really wanted to do, since that helps breathe a lot of life into assets when they have, you know, different cool shapes that were considered when modeling it. Creating some little creases, little scraps and scrapes. There we go. So now we have a pretty highly detailed model of a hat. Just creating little divots and bumps for fun. You gotta be having fun when you're working on this stuff. Okay, cool. So we have a pretty detailed hat now here. And we just added all this resolution inside of Zbrush. And now what we're going to do is we're going to save this out as an object that we project onto the low-res version. That way we get the best of all the worlds. So I'm going to go and grab our hat and then click on export. I'm going to export this as just hat high, because this is the high resolution model. So I'm going to call this one high and hit save. Awesome. So if we did this properly, we should be able to import the high resolution version back into Cinema 4D to make sure that they're perfectly aligned on top of each other. So I'm going to re-import this model now into Cinema 4D, if I can find it somewhere on my computer. This was my MetaHumans, that's the other project. Where is it? There it is. Here's the high resolution version. And then we're going to hold Alt and drag that into here to open it up within the file. Cool, so here's our high resolution hat. It's looking great. Yes, that has all the good details that I wanted to sculpt in there. And it gave us a little bit more of a rugged, beat up old hat kind of feeling, which is also what I was going for. So I'm going to copy this geometry and just double, triple check it's the same size. Yes, it looks like it is the identical size, which is good. Our high resolution one matches the size of our low resolution model. And that's a super crucial step for projection mapping. If the sizes of your two models are even 1% off, the projection won't work. It'll break and look really bad. But that looks like we have a pretty solid projection. So I'm going to just move into the next phase, which is bringing this into Adobe Substance 3D Painter. Oh, that was my MetaHumans. This is me. I'm making some face paint for my avatar. It's the first time. Last night was the first time I started making an AR filter for an avatar. It's like meta. It's wild. But that's for another night. So let me just go ahead and close that out. File. Oops. File. New. There we are. And then we're going to make a new. Weird, I can't see my resolutions. There it is, 2048. And then let's select our asset. We'll grab the just hat version low, and that's 2048, and hit OK. Give it a second to load there. Oh, I'm going to say save changes. Cool. All right, so now our hat has opened up inside of Substance Painter. These are our proper models. You can see our polygons are represented here in red ink, or red outlines. And what I'm going to do is project our high resolution map onto here as a normal and height map. So we're going to go to Edit, and then go to Bake Mesh Maps. I don't know why it's appearing on the other screen for me, it's weird. And I'm going to bake in a 2K resolution version of this, so 2048. And what we want to do is find the high-res file, which I just called just hat high. And now if we hit open and click on bake selected textures, it's going to bake all of these in super high resolution onto our low resolution geometry, which will give us an asset that has the best of both worlds. We have an asset that now has all of the texture quality of a high resolution asset, but it's at the file size of a tiny little asset, which is perfect. Cool, so I'm going to bring in my reference again, and now we can start working on the texturing. Oh, I see a problem. I see that my UV map up at the top there is missing parts of it, so I wasn't able to texture those. No worries, we're going to fix that by going back to Cinema 4D, going to our UV coordinates for our hat, and making sure that all of the UVs are on one texture tile, because yeah, you see how how this top half is off of our tile. That's why we weren't able to see it in Substance Painter. It has to, everything that you want to paint must be entirely on the tile. You can't have any partial stuff like this. So I'm going to grab these two parts that were forgotten, and then I'm going to resize them so that they fit onto a single texture tile here. Excuse me. And I might even just stretch them. Yeah, I might just stretch them. Oh, weird. I don't see all of them. Weird. I don't know where all of the geometry is living. Okay, now I have all of the geometry selected. I might need to do oh no, don't reproject. Crap. Don't know where these parts of the models are living. I'm going to temporarily delete this from the model and then repaste it on a new layer so I can UV unwrap these manually and try to see what's happening. Okay, I think it's wrapped now. I don't know why I can't see the other ones though. Oh, they're stacked, I think. Or no, wait, what? Where are they? Are they like super tiny somewhere? Weird. I don't know why, but for some reason, half of this is not being selected. We have that one and this one. That's this one. That's this one. I'm lost. I don't know why we're getting that. So sometimes I turn off overlapping. So now that should be all four of them. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, cool. That looks good. So I'm going to take all 4 of these and move all 4 of these UVs off of our island. Then I'm going to combine this with our previous asset. Okay, we're going to grab both of these and combine everything. So we'll do connect objects and delete. And then we're going to take all of those texture tiles on the top there and make sure that they all fit comfortably onto our entire world here. I'm just going to stretch it manually to take up more space. Uh-oh, did I just crash Cinema 4D? Oh no! We crashed it.